Good morning and welcome to this, as Steve says, the second day of our Financial Services Commission's industry presentation. I hope that you find the various sessions today useful and helpful. But to start the day off, we are going to talk about the first part of the regulatory cycle, authorisations, as well as some of the ongoing tasks of a regulated entity, such as your online returns and submissions. My colleague Alison will be taking you through some of the common issues we see occurring on a day-to-day basis with the help of some of our authorisations and help desk team. But first, I thought I would pick up on some key points of the authorisations process. I think the initial point to make is that the authorisations process is key to our overall objective of ensuring confidence in the bailiwick and good regulatory outcomes. As with any system, it is easier to prevent inappropriate individuals from getting in than it is to remove them once they're inside. On this basis, one of the core principles of our regime is that any individual holding a prescribed position in the bailiwick needs to be fit and proper. This means that we expect people to act with honesty and integrity and to ensure that they have the appropriate time and skills to carry out their role properly. This doesn't mean we expect everyone to be a blank page when they come to make an application. For example, an applicant may have been a director of a business that has failed in the past, or have previously been involved with an entity that has been fined by its regulator. Either of these events would not necessarily mean we would say no to that individual holding a prescribed position, but we will always view them less favourably if they have not been disclosed to us at the outset. We expect individuals who operate within the financial services industry of the bailiwick to be open and honest with their regulator, so I would encourage everyone who is submitting an online personal questionnaire to make sure that we are informed of any key events in their past. And if in doubt, it is better to disclose and mention something than not. When we're informed of any negative events with an individual's past, we will always look to be fair and proportionate, but we will take into account the reputation of the bailiwick when making our decision. This leads into another area that we regularly receive a number of questions on. With any application, there are a range of individuals who are asked to submit online personal questionnaires. And we always require these individuals to submit the questionnaire from their own email address, not their secretaries or their compliance officers. This is one of the methods we use to ensure that an individual is aware of their responsibilities as a person holding a prescribed position, but also ensures that we can contact that individual directly should anything else occur. When we look at other jurisdictions, such as the UK, they have taken significant steps to ensure that individuals operating within certain sectors understand their responsibilities, i.e. the senior managers regime. While such a regime would not be proportionate in Guernsey, we need to ensure in some manner that a person holding a prescribed position is conscious of their responsibilities, and therefore we are not going to flex this requirement, no matter who is asking. As William mentioned yesterday, we are not a zero-failure regime, either with respect to supervision or authorisations. Businesses can and will fail. I would add to this by saying that we are looking for high-quality, not necessarily low-risk applications. Within Guernsey, we have a range of skills and experience in our legal and compliance sectors that allows us to mitigate the risks associated with complex or innovative businesses or fund structures. We will consider applications based on new business models or ideas, and we are happy to meet with prospective firms or individuals. Indeed, we have a Director of Innovation, and we have our Innovation Soundbox, where we would encourage any firms or individuals with innovative ideas to come and discuss them with us. One point to note here is that you have a choice in what you gain from those meetings. If no background information is provided beforehand, we are happy to meet with a firm, but we would be unable to provide any indication or steer on the strengths and weaknesses of an application. If background information is provided, we would be able to highlight to you the areas that we would consider further or challenge in the application process, perhaps allowing a greater focus on these areas before the submission of any application. As most of you know, we would not be able to give a yes or a no answer to any business model before a complete application is received, but we can highlight which, if any, areas would most concern us. But for now, this is the more entertaining part of our presentation. You will shortly see 3 videos where our authorisations and help desk team have acted out conversations they have on a regular basis, either with new applications or with current licensees. Whilst all firms and individuals named in these videos are from our imagination, i.e. Apple Pie Fund Management, they have been based on real events and experiences. So please enjoy.
Hi, Guernsey Financial Services Commission, Nikki speaking.
Hi, I was hoping you could assist me. I run a company called Moustache Investments and we've got an office in Camden in London. We're considering an open office in Guernsey. Can you tell me if we need to be regulated?
Have you had a look at our website, the information provided?
Well, I'm very busy in my job at Moustache, so I was hoping that you could tell me, as you're the expert.
Our website has a number of useful tools and pieces of guidance, such as the decision tree, which you could find useful for this information. However, if you're still unsure, you should seek legal advice.
Well, I've got my Mac open in front of me now. Where exactly is this useful information?
If you look at the appropriate industry sector that your company is related to, you will find all the applicable laws, guidance and information there.
Okay, great, thanks for that. I'll have a read. Whilst I have you on the phone though, I could use a female's opinion. Do you think we should have red or green cushions in our reception?
Sorry, sir, I can't tell you how to operate your business.
Of course, sorry. Well, thank you anyway.
Thank you, have a nice day, bye.
We may not often receive questions regarding the appropriate choice of soft furnishings, but the Authorisations Unit regularly receive phone calls regarding whether an entity, existing or proposed, falls within the scope of the bailiwick regulatory requirements. A large number of questions concern the interpretation of the non-regulated financial services business law, so I'd like to provide some guidance in this respect. As a first port of call, I would refer you to the decision tree, which is available on the Commission's website. This is a very useful first step in any review process. When an entity is in scope, this is usually quite clear. When it is not, the interpretation of these grey areas can be quite challenging. The Commission will not provide legal advice on the interpretation of law, and in addition, we are also not able to provide commercial advice on how to run or structure a business. What we can do is refer potential applicants to the information on the Commission's website and all the relevant regulations and guidance material. If any of you find that our general guidance cannot deal with your specific circumstances to your satisfaction, the bailiwick has a number of consultants and law firms whom are both sources of information and advice. I am aware that there are some industry concerns that the Commission will take supervisory or, in extreme cases, enforcement action against entities which should be registered under the non-regulated financial services business law but are not. To clarify, the Commission has little to no appetite to take enforcement action when the breaches of the law are of a minor or short-term nature. So what steps should be taken? Firstly, gather all the information and guidance material and identify precisely what you plan to do. Secondly, engage with industry contacts. A comparison with peers is also often a useful exercise. Document and record your considerations and decision-making process to evidence that an assessment against the requirements of the law has been made. Finally, regularly reassess the decision to ensure that it remains valid if the business model or regulatory regime changes. It is your responsibility to take reasonable steps to make sure that a proper assessment has taken place and is documented. We may not agree with the conclusion, but the Commission will look to see documentary evidence that a reasoned consideration has been undertaken.
Good afternoon, Help Desk. Kim speaking.
Good afternoon, it's Jerry Pink of Pink Investment Limited. I'm trying to submit our quarterly return. The deadline date is today. I know I've not done this before. How do I submit it?
Okay, have you completed your online services agreement?
I've no idea. I guess so. How would I know that?
Is there a grey box on your screen which gives you access to the agreement?
Where would that be?
I'll have a look and see if you have. Yes, you have. Do you have permission to submit the form?
I've no idea. I guess so. How would I know that?
Well, your super user will have set your permissions. Do you have a submit button at the end of the form?
No, there isn't a submit button.
Then you haven't been given submit permission.
Oh, can't you give me the permissions?
Sorry, I can't. A super user has to set your permissions.
There's 3 of us in the office and not one of us is a super user. I believe it's Peter. He's away and not back in until Monday.
Oh, in that case, you won't be able to submit your return. Are you able to contact him and ask him to give you permission? Or alternatively, he can submit the form as he's the super user. You have up until midnight tonight.
Oh no, he's travelling at the moment and I'm unable to contact him. The form has to be in today. Can't you do something about it?
I'm sorry, I can't. It's always a good idea to have more than one super user in instances like this.
Oh, I don't think we're going to be able to submit this. None of us have got the capacity to submit it. Will there be a fine?
Not for this particular return, but there are some forms which do incur a fee for late submission.
OK, we'll have to take the hit on this occasion. Thank you anyway, Kim.
OK, thank you. Bye.
The Commission's online submission portal was launched in October 2015, and 2 years down the line, the portal is a vital tool in the Commission's risk-based approach to regulation. The portal has 2 main functions. It can be used to make a variety of notifications to the Commission, for instance, a change of name or address. It can be also used to provide information on breaches, complaints, or pricing errors, or alternatively, to request a revocation or surrender. A list of all the available forms is maintained in the FAQ section of the portal. This slide shows the submission history of notifications from industry during the last 2 years. The steady growth is proof of the growing use of the system. The second function of the portal was the subject of the video clip, the submission of returns from industry to the Commission. This slide illustrates the submission of returns, and it's easy to see the cyclical nature of these requirements. The peaks coincide with the due dates on the various returns. All the information we collect is considered as part of ongoing supervisory engagement. We are mindful of the resourcing required in industry to provide the information contained within the returns, so constantly review what we request to ensure it remains valid. The video clip showed one of the challenges which the help desk is faced with, and I would like to provide you with some additional information regarding the use of the online submissions portal. All returns have due dates and appear on the relevant timelines prior to the deadline to allow for the collation and input of data. We are able to see the audit trail of activity on a return, so please don't call up and say you've worked on it every day for a month when you haven't. We can see when you have logged on. This slide shows the submission rate of annual returns in the last 5 days prior to the April month-end deadline, broken down by time throughout each day. It should be noted that the 29th and 30th of April were not business days. It's clear to see that the submission rates peaked during the final working hour before the deadline. This rush for the finishing line puts pressure on all parties. If the following points could be kept in mind, you need to complete an online services agreement. You now only need to do this once, as the form covers both portals. Make sure that the right portal users within your organisation have the required permissions to both prepare and make submissions. Check who is a super user and ensure there is more than one portal user who has super user permissions. A super user can set permissions for others. Passwords. No one at the Commission can see your password or reset it for you. If you've forgotten your password, you'll need to click the link yourself. Please read the FAQs on the portal. They're accessible to everyone, as you don't need to log on to read them. Finally, please make sure you're using the right portal. It sounds obvious, but people do try to submit returns through the PQ portal and PQs via the online submissions portal. The help desk is, however, only a phone call away. There will be staff to take your call or call you back if you leave a message. We have our regular callers, and whilst it's usually lovely to speak to you, do please think about whether you really need to phone up. The help desk team is not only responsible for answering your calls and emails, but also the review of all the submissions through the other portal, the PQ portal. This year, it is anticipated that submissions of online personal questionnaires, appointments and resignations will exceed 8,700 in total if the current rate continues. In order to help us help you, please could I ask you to read the FAQs, watch the how-to videos and speak to your colleagues. It may be that you can answer your own question without the need to call the help desk.
Oh, hello, what you got there? War and Peace?
No, it's the business risk assessment for Apple Pie Funds Management Guernsey Limited.
That's a coincidence. I'm looking at the one for Blueberry Trust Corp at the moment.
How's that going?
It's a bit light on detail. Yours looks as though it's got a bit more to it than...
No, actually. It just seems to be a generic cut and paste from the handbook. There's no real detail in here at all. Except for this last page, which just says assessment.
I think they may have got the same template from somewhere, don't you?
Wasn't the compliance officer at Apple Pie briefly with the licensee that's behind Blueberry, or am I thinking of someone else?
I think you might be right. I'll have a look when I get back to my desk.
Otherwise, that's just...
Spooky.
Yes. Apple Pie hasn't assessed anything here. OK, they've outlined their business, which is a start, but then they've only identified a few broad risks, and they haven't considered how they're going to mitigate them at all.
No, and Blueberry's just stated that it has no tolerance for money laundering or terrorist financing, which you'd hope not, really.
So there's no assessment of what the risks relating to the business actually are?
No, and I haven't got a risk appetite statement either. Have you got one there?
3 lines, basically, so no. You'd think the board of directors of an applicant would focus on what the risks to their business will be and what the appetite for risk actually is.
Yes, it's the same here, really. I know a director has been responsible for sending in this application, but there's no sign that the board has actually had anything to do with preparing this business risk assessment. Oh, wait a minute. There's a squiggle there. That might be something.
As the Director General mentioned in his opening speech, the business risk assessment is one of the key areas where weaknesses are being identified by my supervisory colleagues. The Authorisations team is the gatekeeper for the Commission, and ensuring that a new licensee gets off to the right start is a responsibility we take very seriously. The business risk assessment is one of the pivotal documents that we review. It must demonstrate that the applicant has considered the financial crime risks that its business model is exposed to and taken appropriate measures to ensure that they are managed and mitigated. As alluded to in the video clip, we do, on occasion, see a mismatch between the proposed business model and the business risk assessment. A tailored, bespoke, business risk assessment with an appetite statement is required. A generic off-the-shelf document is not appropriate. Getting the correct foundations in place right at the start of operations will ensure that the business is run appropriately going forward. The draft handbook on countering financial crime and terrorist financing includes a chapter on the risk-based approach, and it contains some very useful information to consider when drafting a business risk assessment. The Commission is not prescriptive on the format of the assessment, but it must cover the money laundering and financing of terrorism risks separately and include a consideration of whether their concurrent or cumulative effect may raise the firm's overall risk exposure. If so desired, these two financial crime risks can be combined with other assessments of risks, such as operational, governance, and conduct, to form an overarching risk assessment which includes a risk appetite statement for the business as a whole. This assessment should be reviewed and signed off by the board and shared with all relevant staff to ensure that the risk appetite is understood and acted upon by the business as a whole.
Thank you for your time and attention. I hope you found some of those messages helpful. Whilst we don't unfortunately have any time for questions now, both Alison and I are going to be available over the next period and at the last break between the next sessions. So if you have any questions, please come and speak to us. But if not, our contact details are on the website. There we are. Thank you.